A rational number is one that can be expressed as a fraction involving two other numbers. So for instance, the number 4 could be expressed as 8 over 2. It could be expressed as 40 over 10, and so on and so forth. What about the number 0.75? Well, 0.75, that's 75%. That could be expressed as 75 over 100, or 3 over 4. And there are many other ways to express 0.75. What we want to do is to look at irrational numbers. An irrational number cannot be expressed as a fraction. So let's take the number pi, which we use when we're working with circles. That's 3.14. We often use that abbreviated form, but in fact pi goes on and on and on. And if pi were a rational number, we would be able to find two other numbers that would divide to give us that, but we cannot. So we call pi an irrational number. And consider square root of 3. Now the square root of 3 cannot be expressed in this form here. We cannot find any two numbers that divide to give us the square root of 3 exactly. So the square root of 3 is an irrational number, and it's this type of number in this form that we call a surd. So example 1, what we want to do here is identify which of the numbers shown are surds and which are not. So which ones can we simplify and which ones can we not simplify? When I say simplify, we want to end up with a whole number answer. Now, perhaps the first thing to do is to write down a list of the square numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If I square the number 1, I get 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 squared is 4. 3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. 5 squared is 25. 6 squared is 36. 7 squared is 49. 8 squared is 64. 9 nines are 81, and 10 tens are 100. Now the list of square numbers goes on, but we can make use of this list for some of these numbers. So let's have a look at square root of 25. Well, the square root of, you can see that the number 25 features. Here it is here. So the square root of 25 is 5. So the square root of 25 is 5. So that's not a surd. What about the number 20, square root of 20? Well, 20 doesn't feature in this column here, so the square root of 20 is in fact a surd. 121, now 121 doesn't feature in this list, but if you put root 121 into your calculator, you'll get the number, you'll get the answer 11, and that's what we want. So root 121 is not a surd. Square root of 400, try that in your calculator, see what you get. You get the answer 20. So the square root of 400, although there's a square root there, that simplifies. So that's not a surd. Now, when it comes to root 80, well, look at this column here. 80 does not lie in this list of square numbers, so the square root of 80 in fact is a surd, and that goes for square root of 45 as well. Example 2, part A, what we want to do is apply our knowledge of Pythagoras to this right angled triangle to find the value of A, and then we want to leave A as a surd. So well, let's apply Pythagoras. It's the hypotenuse we're calculating, so our calculation will have we'll take this form, a squared equals 5 squared plus 3 squared. That's 25 plus 3 squared is 9, 25 and 9 is 34. And the last thing we do is take the square root. So a equals the square root of 34. Now, if you look at the list of square numbers, 34 is not on that, so we cannot simplify the 34. And this answer then is a surd. Part B, I'm going to use Pythagoras again, but this time I hope you can see that we're calculating the length of a shorter side. We've already got the hypotenuse, so our calculation will have a negative in it. B squared equals 10 squared minus 7 squared, 100 minus 49, which is 51. 51 does not feature on the list of square numbers, so the last thing we'll do is take the square root of the answer, and we have root 51. B equals root 51. So another triangle. This time we've got an angle marked, we've got two sides marked, and what we want to do is to find the ratio for sine of x. Now think about the memory aid SOHCAHTOA. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Now we know that this is the opposite side. It's opposite the marked angle. We know that this is the hypotenuse. We don't have the hypotenuse, so we really want to find it. Let me just call that h. H squared equals 2 squared plus 3 squared equals 13. And remember to take the square root. So there is our surd. 13 is not a square number. When it comes then to writing out the ratio for sine of x, it's opposite over root 13.